Mr. Speaker, I would like to applaud the House Education and the Workforce Committee's passage yesterday of my resolution under the Congressional Review Act to nullify the Biden administration's new independent contractor rule. The resolution passed the committee yesterday. It now has over 60 co-sponsors and has a companion measure led by Senator Cassidy in the Senate. The Biden administration's rule is one of the most harmful regulations that we have ever seen issued in this country. It is explicitly modeled on California's disastrous law known as AB 5, which has cost people their livelihoods in over 600 professions and led to heartbreaking story after heartbreaking story of people who lost their careers, who lost everything. A recent study out of George Mason shows that AB 5 in California led to a 10.4% decline in self-employment and a 4.5% decline in overall employment. And now the Biden administration is threatening to do the same damage to our entire country. Tens of millions of freelancers and independent contractors will be affected by this new rule. Just to take one example, there are hundreds of thousands of truckers who could be taken off the road, throwing our supply chains into chaos. It is by no means an exaggeration to say that the livelihoods of millions of Americans are now at risk. The administration's new rule, which not even the administrator of the Wage and Hour Division could give us any answers as to how it will be applied at a recent hearing that I convened of my subcommittee, it's so overreaching that it's already prompted 4 separate lawsuits on procedural grounds, on statutory grounds, on constitutional grounds. To add insult to injury, the administration has, of all people, brought in to enforce it Julie Su, who was the labor secretary in California and in that role was the architect of AB 5 and ruthlessly enforced it to such devastating effect. Ms. Su remains unconfirmed. For over a year, she has been in an acting capacity, and the Senate returned her nomination to the president last year amid bipartisan opposition, and yet the administration has kept her in that role. Apparently, one of the main reasons being so that she could enforce it in the exact same damaging way that AB 5 was enforced in California. Now, of course, I am continuing to call on President Biden to do the right thing, to withdraw Ms. Su's failed nomination and to withdraw this disastrous new independent contractor rule. But barring that, Ms. Su should at the very least, and President Biden, put the rule on hold, suspend it until the ongoing litigation's outcome is clear. The business community and millions of workers across this country will otherwise be in a state of great and highly damaging uncertainty. In the meantime, I will continue to build support and work with folks on both sides of the aisle to pass this resolution under the Congressional Review Act so that we can spare millions of American workers from the same fate that folks have suffered in California and to protect the right to earn a living in this country. Thank you, and I yield back.